Hello and welcome to Endstep, the Upkeep After Show. Last week we were playing with Pauper Commander deck. So again, the ruling on that is any uncommon creature can be your commander, doesn't have to be a legendary, and then your 99 has to be a card that at some point has been printed at the common rarity, and only two banned cards are Rhystic Study and Mystic Remora, and otherwise you just play normal commander. If you haven't seen that game, go check it out, because otherwise this conversation is not going to make sense, as is all of the series of Endstep. And today we are going to be talking a little bit more about our decks, what we think about the Pauper Commander, PDH if you will, format. And let's just go ahead and go around the table real quick. Let's start with an easy question that we do most episodes, which is what are maybe one or two cards in your deck that are really important or cool that you didn't get to show off? Preston.
So my two, I think, main game enders for the deck are Hand of Emrakul and Ulamog's Crusher. They're two Eldrazi's. They cost 8 and 9 mana respectively for a 7/7 and an 8/8. They both have Annihilator, which can help clear the way, and they hit for a lot of damage. So those are like the two main ways to end the game. And a card I was really hoping to find at some point that game was Kazandu Nectarpart. It's a 1/3 insect that says landfall. Whenever a land comes in, you get to gain 1 life.
So yeah, I mean, none of those are elementals, but you know, Risen Reefs gain you the extra land, so that's going to gain you theoretically a lot of life, and then those lands are going to ramp you into the giant smashy creatures. So, Steven, what about you?
I feel like there weren't really that many cards that I didn't get to show off. I don't have the ninjas in this deck because I'm restricted to commons. Most of the ninjas aren't that good, but so I think Moon Circuit Hacker did. It helped me a lot, being able to draw extra cards. I think Tragic Slip and Drown in Sorrow are Tragic Slip's more just one specific target, and Drown in Sorrow is the closest thing to a board wipe I have in the deck. All creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. I mean, the bad thing is obviously with the board wipe, it's also going to be targeting my stuff, and there was just at the point where I thought, well, if I do that, then everything but my 5/5 Ogre Ninja. I feel like there weren't that many cards. I feel like my deck did a pretty good amount of what I wanted it to do. There's a lot of control aspect to it, destroying target creatures, counter spells, tapping down creatures and stuff like that. And I did a little bit of each of those. So I mean, I felt like my deck did what I built it for. So.
Oh, cool. And Jason, Mr. Monarch here. What are maybe a couple cards that are important to your game plan that you didn't get to show off?
So the only two cards that I didn't get to play that I wanted to show off that really work well and synergize well with the deck and help me win the game. The first one is, and forgive me if I don't say this right, but I believe it's Enoch Bondkin, and it's a 2/1 dog soldier that has Outlast for 1 and a white, where I could pay the Outlast cost and tap it and put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then it says each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has first strike. So that's really good because clearly throughout the game I was putting a lot of +1/+1 counters on creatures, and if I had more creatures out on the board, I would have been able to distribute those +1/+1 counters. So that's just more creatures getting getting first strike. And then a Lord of the Rings card. Now for Wrath, now for Ruin. It says, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. They gain Vigilance until end of turn, and then the ring tempts you. I wasn't really building around the ring tempting in this deck at all. I had a couple of cards in here that did it, and I know that the ring is just, it adds cool stuff. Like, I did it the first time, and let's say I play this, I go to the second ability, and then, whenever my ring bearer attacks, I draw a card, then discard a card. So, it adds another small advantage, but I didn't build around that in any way. And I only had a couple of cards in the deck that had Toxic. I know I played that one card at the beginning that had Toxic, but I really played that more just as a cheap artifact that can get me a land, but then also have some other added use. And then I did have a mana rock in here. I don't remember what it's called, but it's tap it, add 1 mana of any color, then whenever it becomes tapped, anybody with a poison counter loses 1 life.
So you made Preston all sweaty with that 1 poison counter for no reason?
For no reason at all.
Wow.
But yeah, those were just the only 2 cards that I wanted to show off that didn't get played.
Yeah, my deck also really got to do its thing. It took a while to find any red mana, but once we found it, we were cooking, and it was just a bunch of small creatures that I didn't care if they died. Creatures that they enter the battlefield, they do their thing. I don't care if they're here anymore. Creatures that when they die, they do something. So you really got to see the gist of the deck. What I do want to point out is, like we were saying, that this is a format where there aren't that many board wipes. So the few that you can get are pretty nice. So I had 2 in the deck. I had Fireball, which you did get to see in the game, and then I also had Pestilence, which is an enchantment. Now, obviously, neither of these are good board wipes. They're very, very mana intensive and take quite a bit of setup. They're fairly situational, but in a format where you don't have actual board wipes, you work with what you can. And then I said during my deck intro during the game that I had a convoluted 4-piece combo. So here's how it works. So first, I need to cast First Day of Class. The part that matters here is that whenever a creature enters the battlefield this turn, I put a 1/1 counter on it. And so what I do is I need the Skirk Prospector, which says sacrifice a goblin, add a red mana. And I need the Putrid Goblin, which is a 2/2 goblin with Persist. So I will sacrifice the Putrid Goblin to the Skirk Prospector to add a red mana. And then the Putrid Goblin, because it has Persist, will return to the battlefield with a -1/-1 counter. But because I had cast First Day of Class, the -1/-1 counter will get counteracted by the +1/+1 counter, which means it just doesn't have any counters at all. And I can rinse and repeat, creating infinite red mana, and then I can Fireball to kill all of my opponents. So very convoluted. You did end up seeing a couple of those cards in the game, but yeah, it's not a realistic win. And honestly, all of these cards are pretty decent in the deck anyways. I do have quite a few goblins in the deck, so Skirk Prospector is actually just kind of good in here anyways. But what did anyone have like a favorite moment of the game that they wanted to put a little bit of extra attention on?
That moment right at the end when I was about to kill Morgan and he went to cast a spell to like try and save himself, and I was like, you
can't do that.
I don't do that here.
Yeah.
That was rough. So I had a Braid in hand. So with your creature, with your spell on the stack that was giving you all the buffs, I was going to deal 3 damage to your commander. I forgot that I couldn't do that. So I should have done that on my turn. Mm-hmm. But sometimes your mistakes cost you the game.
You win some, you lose some.
Yeah. What about either of you? Did you have a favorite moment you wanted to highlight?
I'm just glad my deck did better than I thought it was gonna.
I mean, because I know you kind of slapped it together last second.
I did, and I was just like, as long as I don't get last, and my deck, it kind of did work. I mean,
and we were talking between the game and now, you like really thinking about building a ninja deck now.
I think I'm gonna with Yuriko. Yeah, I mean, because like I've grown to really like ninjutsu, and
I would say just the last like turn or so, because I was able to kill Steven with the fireball.
I was wrong.
It was kind of wrong.
Which, by the way, if I'd made it to my next turn, I would have won. I had a card in my hand that gave all of my creatures menace, and
you had quite a few creatures.
And I had quite a few creatures, so I only had to attack you with 1 creature, and then you with the rest, and then like that would have been enough with menace and everything. So I was kind of bummed.
So. It was so sweaty there at the end because I was like, Steven's going to kill me on the crackback. Jason's going to kill me on the crackback. I was kind of king making in that moment. And I think if I had known how much I was king making, I probably would have let Steven win because he's only had 1 win this season. But
not that I tried to stop you, because if I'm potentially going to be made the king, why would I stop anyone from doing that? But I did call out that you were going to be king making no matter who you killed.
You did. But yeah, so I fireballed Steven, and then I thought that maybe I could sneak in away with Garna to draw into more blockers, incentivize different blocks. And then when you blocked my 2 attackers, guess what my 2 draws were? Mountains.
Hey!
So, that didn't help me at all.
Nope.
And then I mistimed my attempt at an Abrade to remove your commander. So it was just an exciting, who's going to win this game here at the very end.
You should have let me win.
See, I will say, this is the second game in a row that Morgan has killed who I think we all thought was the wrong person. Yeah. I really.
I don't think that's true because.
Well, maybe Steven was the right person to kill in that moment.
He had way more creatures,
and honestly,
he was being sneaky.
Okay, and I did win off a top deck.
Yeah,
I really did. I don't top deck that creature that puts those +1/+1 counters, and I can't kill you.
Right.
Like, you would be able to block and live. So,
Steven already, I was going to ask this question later, but since Steven already kind of touched on it, he's thinking about touching up his deck, making it a Yuriko commander deck. What are you guys' plans for these decks?
The thing about Risen Reef is, like, so back when this card was in Standard, this was, like, the best card in Standard.
It's so good.
And, like, the problem with that Elemental deck is because Risen Reef can't normally be the commander, it makes it a lot weaker than it was in Standard and, what's the other format on Arena?
Explorer? Historic?
Historic was the other one at the time. It was good in both of those formats, but now in Commander, if you can't play it as the commander, it weakens it a lot. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this deck at the moment.
What about you, Jason?
I'm going to keep this deck together. I might... What I might do is have 2 separate deck lists for it. Keep this commander as my commander, and then just swap out cards if I want to play it as a regular commander deck, and then keep it as this Pauper deck, because I was not expecting Pauper to be as much fun as it was. And you know what it really felt like to me, that whole game? It felt like playing Magic when I first started playing. When it wasn't
Battlecruiser Commander.
It wasn't like, everybody doing all these crazy things with these super powerful cards. You play a land, you pass. That's turn 1. You play another land. Maybe you play a mana rock. Maybe you play a weak creature. You pass.
Yeah.
And it just slow like that. Everyone built up. There wasn't a single board wipe. The board didn't get destroyed one time. You really had to fight your way to get to the end, pick away at everybody's creatures. That was just fun. That felt like classic old school Magic.
It did. One, it reminded me of Battlecruiser Commander, like old school, not a lot of board wipes, pretty fair stuff. But then, because especially we're playing with a lot of weak creatures you wouldn't play with normally and stuff like that, it really does just remind you of when you're first getting into Magic and you're just playing with what you can find.
And the thing is, like, those creatures are only weak relative to the other cards that you can play in the regular commander format. But in Pauper, they just get elevated because you're limited to only these options.
So I guess maybe I should have asked this question first, but what do we think of the format? Because I think that dictates why we're saying what we're saying about these decks and what we're going to do with them. Because I guess for me, I really liked Garna. I think this is a slept-on commander. I think it's a pretty neat, uncommon commander that people should try. But I kind of like it. I don't really have a sacrifice deck right now, and I could see maybe upgrading it into a normal commander deck, but we'll see. But yeah, what do we think about Pauper Commander in general? Because what Jason just pointed out is a great nod to, is one of the nice things about the format, but we're all kind of like, oh, I'm going to upgrade it into a normal commander deck. Like that's kind of, so what do we actually think about the format?
How long ago did we decide on themes?
We decided on the themes like it was
9 months ago.
It was
10 months ago.
It was a while ago. It was probably June when we decided what the season was going to
So in this game, obviously, I did not have a great time. I was kind of upset by the end, but I do love the idea and this whole concept. And I was so excited. Like whenever we decided these 10 months ago, I built this like 2 days later. I have had this deck built for 10 months waiting on this episode. So yeah, I'm a pretty big fan. I hope we bring it back at some point.
I like the idea of taking a creature that you wouldn't normally use as a commander because it's not legendary. Like I like that aspect of it because then now you're able. It just opens up more doors to more just interesting decks. So I like that aspect of it.
The only other thing that I would say about it is I built this whole deck, with the exception of my commander. Morgan actually gave me this card. I just pulled cards out of my collection. I just used cards I had. Didn't have to spend a dime. That was the most fun part for me, was just pulling out all the cards that I have in my collection, going through them, and seeing what synergizes well with the deck that I was trying to build to make this work as my commander.
Yeah, as far as deck brewing goes, my favorite episode this season was, just as far as deck deck building goes was the Eldraine episode, because we were, building around cards that weren't even known to the public yet, so we couldn't use EDH Rec or anything. So I was literally just digging through my collection, and that was fun, working with pretty much only cards you already had.
Yeah.
Because we also didn't really have time to order new cards for the most part. Yeah, I could see us maybe wanting to do this again, and this isn't the first time we've played something that's not exactly Commander. We did play Tiny Leaders last season.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. I feel like there was something else that we did. Oh, well, we did Custom Commanders, which was kind of
unique.
Weird. What did we think about this versus Tiny Leaders? Do we like this or Tiny Leaders more?
I like Tiny Leaders more.
I like this more. I like
Yeah.
Pauper a lot more personally. Like and in 100% honesty, I did not think I'd have fun with Pauper. I didn't think I would, because it's like I don't have my Ristic Study. I don't have
It's
my,
one of the only cards banned in the format.
I don't have my Soul Ring. I don't have my Teferi's Protection or my Sylvan Library. Like, how do I play Magic? But
Or Temple of the False God.
I wouldn't have that anyway. If I could, I'd burn them all. But this was actually a really cool... This was a really fun experience, and I would build more Pauper decks just to play. Like, if we got together and just had... Like, one of the games that we play, if we're just hanging out, was a Pauper game. Like, I would be down for that. I would build decks for that.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun playing this.
I like this for all of the reasons that Jason said, but I actually agree with Steven that I think I prefer Tiny Leaders, because I like that it's more aggro and more aggressive, because Commander tends to be kind of long and grindy a lot of the times. Not always, but a lot of the times. And I like that Tiny Leaders is a way to be more aggressive in a way that's not CEDH, because in CEDH it's quicker because people are trying to combo off and stuff, which is not as cool as I swing at you with all my creatures, So what about you, Preston? Do you have a preference between the two, or do you like them about the same?
Well, Tiny Leaders is meant to be 1v1 usually.
That is true, which
So-
we did go against the technical rules.
So
But
if we're playing for a player, I think I like this better, but I do like how Tiny Leaders does work as a 1v1 as compared to most other Commander formats.
yeah, I can get behind that. That's
Yeah,
I like both.
if I was going to play a 1v1 Commander game, I'd rather play Tiny Leaders over
yeah,
Brawl.
for sure.
If that makes sense.
So I have two quick other questions I want to get through before we have to call this episode. One, last time Jason won was pretty recent too, and he kind of stole the win out of nowhere on that episode too. So guys, what are we going to do to stop this from happening?
Hey, wait a second.
Out of the group.
Morgan killed me first completely out of nowhere last week. If anything, I deserved the win. And I earned the win, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's the monarch, so...
And then I guess
Guillotine.
and then I guess
Oh,
more-
also, I do think this is the first game that somebody became the Monarch and then didn't lose the Monarch.
I think that's the first time that's happened on the show at all. I
It
think-
was only for 2 turns,
Yeah.
but I got it.
yeah.
I like the monarch.
Thank you, I
that's
like
great.
you too.
I don't remember what my other question was.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no, Steven said in between the game and the after show that what other cool things could we do? And he mentioned that maybe we do an episode where we all build around a planeswalker. I know people in the community are kind of mixed about that. Some people are like, yeah, that should be allowed. And some people are like, no, please don't do that. So if you guys would like to see that, let us know in the comments. Maybe that's something we could do next season, but what do you guys think? I know Steven's excited about that. Is that something you guys would want to do? Like, if we could build around a planeswalker, would you?
Yeah, 100%.
Dude, I would...
I wanted to build around Urza Headmaster as my commander since that card existed.
I could.
I would totally build an Ajani deck. I love Ajani so much.
I don't know. When we first talked about this, I said, Ugin.
Yes, it was Ugin.
Yeah, when we first talked about this, I said that I would build Ugin the Spirit Dragon, but I said that jokingly, just because Ugin, first of all, is a really expensive commander to have to play, and then he's kind of broken, and I don't want to do that. But so I don't know, but I would do it.
I think the reason it's never become an actual thing, other than that it's kind of against the rules of Commander, other than the specific planeswalkers that say this can be your commander, other than those, I think there are just so many planeswalkers that if you just have access to it all the time, it's just too strong.
And I mean, in
But-
Brawl, you can have any planeswalker be your commander.
Yeah.
But
But it's a much smaller card pool,
Yeah.
and it's 60 card.
And it just sucks. I'm not a fan of Brawl.
So I guess let us know in the comments as well what you think our criteria should be for Revenge Week. Because at the end of the season, we did this last season as well. At the end of the season, except for the one person who has the best win rate, everyone's going to come back and bring back a deck that they feel like didn't quite get to go up with the rest of the deck, didn't get its chance to shine. But we have to decide what the actual rules are, because we have quite a few decks now that after it's filmed, it gets changed so much that it's hardly the same deck. So like if Steven wants to bring this deck back and it's, Yuriko as the commander, is he allowed to do that? Am I allowed to do that with my life swap deck now that has a different commander? Let us know in the comments. That is going to be important, because as of the time you're seeing this, we still have not recorded Revenge Week, so we'd like to know. Are you guys feeling? What do you guys feel about these decks for Revenge Week? Is that feeling pretty realistic, or?
Well, so I will say, in regards of making the changes, like I think if there's a significant amount of changes, especially with yours, because like yours added a whole color.
It went from mono black to black white.
So I mean, and it has like a completely different commander, and a lot of other cards are switched out. Like I think at that point, I don't know, like that's a lot.
Well, it is only like 20 cards I switched. But.
I would even argue that like my card would be too much, because it's like, I mean, yeah, the theme is still the same, but like there are just so many cards that they're going to be switched out, because it's like there's so many not good cards in here because it's Pauper. They're all commons, and getting the option to so many more. It's like the theme is going to stay the same, but the deck is going to be like just so much different that it's like I think maybe not.
I don't know. To me, it makes sense. To me, it would make sense if you were to bring it back for Revenge Week, simply because it's the same deck theme. And the only reason you wouldn't have built it that way in the first place was because you built it for Pauper. If you were building a ninja deck just regular, you wouldn't have built it this way. You would have put, other cards in it that you can't put in it because it's a Pauper deck.
Right.
So I think maybe for your situation, it wouldn't be appropriate to bring it back for Revenge Week. I still personally think it would be fine. But I definitely think that this could definitely be something that you could bring back for Revenge Week, because it's not like it's not going to be a ninja deck again.
What about Risen Reef?
I mean, it's not a legendary creature, so I can't. But...
I know, but could we do what Steven would do? Is there I know the 3-color Omnath is elemental.
That's what I'm saying. Like that, you can build that deck in Commander, but the reason it was so good as a deck was Risen Reef, and it being somewhere randomly in the 99 just really neuters the potential of that deck. So I probably wouldn't.
I mean, you could play it as a secret commander, right? You could do the 3-color Omnath that cares about elementals, and then you could, you're in green, so you can run all of the creature tutors, and then you're in blue, so you can run the cards that tutor for the creature tutors.
Yeah.
And then you just have you can flicker and abuse Risen Reef, clone Risen Reef, stuff like that. But that just sounds like so much work.
But it could be fun though, because
it would be cool. But...
sequencing stuff like that together to get the commander out, and then you could play with one of my favorite cards that's ever been printed in the entire game, Diplomatic Immunity. You know what that does?
I know the name.
Diplomatic Immunity. It's an enchantment. It says enchant creature. And it says enchanted creature can't be the target of spells or abilities. And Diplomatic Immunity can't be the target of spells or abilities. So basically, this creature is protected from everything except a board wipe. And I love it. I love it. So you get Risen Reef out there, and then you get Diplomatic Immunity on it. You're good to go. But honestly, for the purposes of our group, I would be fine with you playing Risen Reef as a commander, for a commander deck. If you were to build around it, I would have zero problem with that. I don't know what these guys think.
Yeah, I mean we're pretty chillaxed in our play group, so
yeah.
I mean stuff like that. We let it slide every now and then, especially if you're not doing something.
Yeah,
bonkers. Risen Reef is a very good card. However.
I've had triple-headed Goblin in my Goblin deck for, I think, a year and a half or so, whenever I've rebuilt that deck.
Yeah,
and you have a Santa commander deck that you created.
I did, yeah. That was that was a fun deck.
It was cool.
I kind of miss it.
Wait, do you not have it anymore?
No, I just had it for the Christmas season that one year. Yeah, it was a green, white, red deck that was about giving things to my opponent, but then also Santa's sleigh was part of the deck, and it kind of got Voltron. He was like, group hug, kill you. So
It was cool.
It was
Santa,
pretty
Santa,
fun.
Krampus.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. But anyways, thanks for tuning into Endstep. I hope that you enjoy these. I hope that you have these kind of discussions, maybe not for 20, 30 minutes or whatever it is that we go on for, but have these after game discussions with your play group, make adjustments, and find out how to make the rest of your play group have a better time enjoying the game. So tune in next week. Next episode, we are all going to be playing Preston's decks. Preston's going to be here commentating, giving us advice, helping us out. But then the rest of the 4 guys are all playing one of his decks, and we're putting them up against each other. Should be a pretty dang fun time. And then here's a playlist linked here somewhere on screen where you can check out any episodes you might have missed, as well as one of our other recent videos. Make sure you subscribe for more Magic the Gathering related content, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Adios!